Tonight on CFTK-TV News, a case of aggravated assault in Terrace, a beloved longtime mayor has died, and tariff talks continue.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday, February 27th, 2025. I'm Jaylene Matthews. We begin with our news that's local to the Northwest. A longtime and beloved mayor in the Northwest has died. Alice Maitland was first elected to Hazelton Council in 1965. In 1976, she became the mayor of Hazelton and remained in that position until 2018, a remarkable 42 years, making her the longest-serving mayor in BC history. MP Taylor Bachrach described Maitland as a renowned champion for rural communities, having grown up in Hazelton herself. Terrace Mayor Sean Boytash described Maitland as a friend and a fierce voice for the Hazeltons. And Smithers Mayor Gladys Attrell stated that Maitland's commitment to her community, region, and supporting women in government, along with her family, will be her legacy. Maitland was 91 years old. Reported on Tuesday, an incident between two men in Terrace ended up with both of them in the hospital. As a result, a 25-year-old man has been charged. The incident occurred near Monroe Street and Gare Avenue. Due to the two men fighting, both appeared to be injured and one vehicle was damaged. One man was taken to hospital and one was taken into custody, but both received medical treatment for their injuries. Yesterday, the arrested man was charged with assault, including a weapon, mischief, and failure to comply with release order. Avalanche Canada has released a special warning today for BC and Western Alberta backcountry. They say that after a season of relatively stable avalanche conditions, we are entering a period of dramatic change. Prominent weak layers have developed in the upper snowpack, formed during periods of drought in January and February, and buried between 30 and 100 centimeters deep. Overlying these weak layers, there's now a consolidated slab of snow creating dangerous avalanche conditions. To manage these challenging conditions, it is essential that backcountry users choose conservative terrain and use good travel habits, carry the essential rescue gear, and have the training to use it. The Northwest will be down a favorite music show this summer, as it was announced this morning that the Kispiox Valley Music Festival has been canceled for the summer. Located just 15 minutes north of Hazelton, the festival, which has been around since 1995, will not have any shows this summer, as the board has stated they would like to take a step back and reassess their situation going forward. The board expects this to be a one-off, however, as they now expect to be back next year for the best experience possible in the years ahead. This is a not-for-profit society, and the festival usually takes place on the last full weekend of July, solely run by volunteers. Coming up next, tariff threats and talks continue. With the proposed start of tariffs looming, rumors continue to swirl regarding how, when, and whether it's going to happen. CTV's Rob Buffum investigates.
Less than a week away from the deadline for massive threatened tariffs to kick in, it's still unclear if they will.
The uncertainty that the president is creating, I believe, is part of the overall strategy. This is actually a deliberate strategy that he has to weaken Canada.
On Wednesday, President Trump appeared to indicate 25% tariffs on Canadian goods set for March 4th might be pushed back to April if Canada's steps to secure its border from the flow of fentanyl were enough. Still, he reiterated, tariffs were ultimately coming.
The tariffs will make it impossible for them to sell lumber or anything else into the United States.
Adding to the confusion, multiple overlapping tariff threats. Tariffs on all Canadian goods set for March 4th. Additional tariffs on steel and aluminum from any country March 12th. And worldwide reciprocal tariffs in April.
Nothing that we hear from this administration can be taken as credible. At this point, you have to assume that whatever we hear at this moment will be countermanded in 5 minutes or 5 days' time.
To brace for those tariffs, Eby says his government is considering legislation to remove trade barriers with specific provinces to expand trade partners.
the province could enter into bilateral agreements or agreements with a coalition of the willing of other provinces where we're willing to recognize each other's regimes.
The Premier met Wednesday with the other premiers and Prime Minister and says Trudeau relayed cautious optimism that beefed up border measures like helicopters may have persuaded Trump to delay tariffs at least until April.
I don't think anybody knows what is truly in the mind of the president except for the president himself.
Tariff deadlines have been set and postponed twice already in Trump's first 6 weeks in office. On Tuesday, we'll know if it's a third time. Robert Buffum, CTV News.
More analysis now on the tariff situation. On the federal level, a new comprehensive financial aid plan is in the works. CTV's Judy Trin explains.
Without us, Canada can't make it. You know, Canada relies on us 95%. We rely on them 4%.
The insults came after President Donald Trump indicated he's not satisfied with Canada's progress on stopping illegal migration and fentanyl.
But the fentanyl-related things, they're working hard on the border. At the end of that 30 days, they have to prove to the president that they've satisfied him to that regard. If they have, then he'll give them a pause, or he won't. But that's up to him to see.
In a statement, the White House said the scheduled tariffs on Canada and Mexico could change pending negotiations, but as of now are still moving ahead.
Our mission is still to seek, that we don't apply the tariff. That's certainly our mission number one.
So far, Canada has appointed a fentanyl czar. Black Hawk helicopters and drones now monitor the border. More canine teams are sniffing out drugs, and cartels have been designated terror organizations. But Trump is determined to use tariffs to drive business to the U.S. at the expense of Canada.
The tariffs will make it impossible for them to sell lumber or anything else into the United States.
The federal government has until March 4th to meet Trump's fentanyl markers, or tariffs could be imposed on all Canadian goods sold to the Americans. On March 12th, additional duties on steel and aluminum are scheduled. Then in April, worldwide reciprocal tariffs could come. The Canadian Labour Congress says Canadians have to brace for the worst-case scenario.
Our estimates are that 1.5 million jobs will leave within the first 12 months if there are the broad-stroke tariffs that we're expecting to start taking place next week.
The federal government says it's preparing a comprehensive financial aid plan to help Canadian businesses and workers get through a long trade war. But so far, few details have been released.
Turning to the weather, rainy, wet weather, fog, and clouds have dominated this week in the northwest, but it's looking like the sun will come out on Sunday across the region. Tonight on the north coast, it's looking cloudy with a 60% chance of showers late this evening and overnight. Wind will be light except over exposed coastal sections where it may gust up to 50 kilometers an hour. Temperatures steady near 6 degrees. Over the next few days on the north coast, expect periods of rain for the next couple days, changing to sun on Sunday. That sunshine looks like it'll stick around a while. Daily temperatures sitting around 7 degrees and will get a little warmer when the sun comes out. Tonight in the Terrace-Kitimat area, it's looking cloudy with a 40% chance of showers early this evening, some mild winds and a low of +2. Over the next few days in the Terrace-Kitimat area, clouds and rain until Saturday, and then the sun will come out on Sunday and Monday, with Monday's high being 10 degrees. Overnight lows will sit around 4 degrees, but dropping as low as 0 on Sunday. Tonight in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, expect increasing cloudiness this evening as well as winds up to 15 kilometers an hour, a low of -4 degrees, wind chill -6 overnight. Over the next few days in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, cloudy and rain for the next couple days, then sunshine on Sunday and Monday. The temperature will remain relatively steady in the 6-7 degree range, and overnight lows dropping over the next few nights, getting as cold as -6 on Monday. Checking your Northwest highways now. On Highway 16, fog patches and water pooling from Prince Rupert to Cedarvale. On Highway 37, there's fog patches as well as slush, slippery sections, and compact snow in some areas. On the Nishka Highway, fog patches and water pooling. Drivers are also advised to watch for falling ice between Lac-Scottsap and Gingolf. On Telegraph Creek Road, watch for slippery sections, slush, and compact snow. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, a destination wedding gone south. Homelessness has been a continual and growing issue in BC in recent years. And although most communities have shelters and supports in place, one Fraser Valley municipality believes they're bearing the brunt of the workload that comes with supporting those populations. Here's CTV's Craig Krause.
Chilliwack, an expanding city nestled in the Fraser Valley, has some growing pains.
It was bad when I first moved in with homeless, but now it's totally getting worse. Something needs to be done.
A call for action as the city's mayor says the shelter system is busting at the seams.
Proud of the work that we've done, but at the end of the day, we can't accept any more.
Mayor Popoff claims the Eastern Fraser Valley is taking the brunt of supporting the most vulnerable.
The numbers don't lie. We have the most per capita beds in the Lower Mainland.
And here's a look at what the mayor says is data collected by city staff that shows Chilliwack with over 2.5 shelter beds per 1,000 people. For comparison, their numbers show that Vancouver has 2.4 beds and Surrey with under 1. So I went to the province to ask why. And BC's housing minister fired back.
The claim that they have the highest per capita is factually not correct.
The Ministry of Housing releasing its own numbers, showing Hope at approximately 8.4 beds, Vancouver with 2.8, and Chilliwack with the third most at 2.7. Callan accuses Chilliwack of turning down additional support as more people are living on the street.
What is correct is they've seen a 35% increase in homelessness. And I think it's upon all of us to find solutions.
The province is trying to build more long-term supportive housing, which has been rejected recently in Richmond, Vancouver, and also Chilliwack.
It appears to me that they're not interested in wanting to support vulnerable people. And that's really sad.
That's totally not correct. We've got 3 supportive housing units on the go or in place. One that's 4 years behind. After these are constructed, we're going to put the brakes on any more new ones.
Until, Popoff says, other communities in Metro Vancouver pick up the pace to take care of the most vulnerable in their communities.
Do you think you'll be able to mend that relationship with the province?
Time will tell. Time will tell.
Craig Crow, CTV News, Chilliwack.
Residents of a South Surrey neighborhood are shaken after a series of seemingly random attacks in a close-knit community. CTV's Abigail Turner reports.
It was very alarming.
At least 100 concerned community members gathered to discuss a terrifying string of attacks in their South Surrey neighborhood early Wednesday morning. Just before 1:30 a.m., a man is seen approaching the front door of a mobile home park. Violence then quickly breaks out with the homeowner, Rocco's dad.
He tried the first time to come in, and my dad took it outside and wrestled and fought him on the deck, and then proceeded the fight down the ramp and onto the road.
His dad was eventually able to fend off the attacker with a hockey stick.
Screaming help and just trying to call attention to the scene.
The attacker then continued on to the next house near King George Boulevard and 160th Street. Neighbors across the road were woken by the commotion.
I watched him proceed to the next home, and he was banging and smashing on the vehicle.
The suspect, who is known to police and has a violent history, broke a window at the main office of the park before Surrey police arrested him.
Matter's still under investigation. but at this time it appears to be a random incident and the suspect's unknown to victims.
The community left shaken, finding comfort in being together after the troubling attack.
We organized 3 committees this evening to help with bringing awareness not only to our MLAs, but also to offer the seniors in our community to have someone take a look at their deadbolts, make sure people are safe.
It really touched my heart to feel the community and the love, neighbors coming together and just loving each other.
The suspect was taken to Peace Arch Hospital, where he was later involved in what Fraser Health are calling a, quote, serious incident involving police and medical staff. He now remains in police custody. Abigail Turner, CTV News, Vancouver.
A resort destination wedding is a dream for many, but one groom is speaking out as his dream wedding quickly became a nightmare for their guests. Here's CTV's Andrew Johnson with the story.
A beautiful couple and the destination wedding of their dreams. But behind the camera, all was not well with their guests.
They started dropping like flies. They started just really running out of the wedding.
90 people flew down to Mexico to celebrate with Quebec's Stephen Pontarelli and his wife. He says 80 of them ended up sick.
And I literally had one guest that passed out and broke part of his cheekbone on a sink from puking so much, and wound up breaking 3 fingers at the same time and had to be rushed to the hospital.
Pontarelli claims staff at Santos Playa Car had no interest in offering support. Bottled water was being sold for $12 US, and eventually the water in the resort was turned off.
People are in their rooms, involuntary, throwing up and going to the washroom, but yet you can't flush the toilets or you can't even wash your hands or just sink. It literally was a disaster.
Pontarelli is just the latest Canadian to come forward to CTV News describing a similarly nightmarish scene at the same resort over the past couple of weeks. We reached out to Santos Playa Car but have not received a response. The resort claims online it follows strict cleaning and hygiene protocols and that the health and safety of guests is its top priority. One doctor says you're often rolling the dice at an all-inclusive resort.
Everybody's touching everything. In warm weather, if things are sitting out, if things may not be properly refrigerated and chilled appropriately, you are exposing yourself to risk.
Here's what he looks for.
If you see people are practicing good hygiene and there's Purell next to the food preparation areas and people are using it and they're not sharing utensils, those are all good things.
A travel expert suggests making sure you have adequate medical insurance, and if you do get sick, start documenting.
Just have a detailed summary and then send an email or make a complaint after the fact and, just be polite, and then maybe there will be some kind of compensation.
Experts warn resorts and tour operators may try to avoid taking the blame for your troubles, but there can be compensation if you push hard enough.
Turning to today's stock market numbers now. The Canadian dollar dropped slightly and the price of gold fell $43.70. Oil rose by $1.46, natural gas was up 4 cents, and aluminum dropped $6. In Toronto, the TSX dropped 200 points, the Venture Index dropped 14. In New York, the Dow Jones fell 192 points, and the Nasdaq dropped about 531. Still ahead, a Hollywood mogul remembered. A well-known actor has died, along with his wife and dog. Here's CTV's Adrian Alonso.
This morning, authorities are investigating what led to the sudden death of 95-year-old legendary actor Gene Hackman and his 63-year-old wife, classical pianist Betsy Arakawa. The couple was found dead in their Santa Fe home late Wednesday, along with their dog. And local authorities saying there is no foul play suspected at this time. Hackman was one of the titans of American cinema, first making a name for himself in Bonnie and Clyde as Clyde's wily brother, Buck.
We're gonna have ourselves a time, boy!
His illustrious career spanning over 5 decades. It started on the stage and transitioned with his versatile performances in film and TV, which earned him a host of awards, including 2 Academy Awards. His first win coming for his portrayal of Jimmy Popeye Doyle in 1971's The French Connection.
I don't buy that, Irv.
Stuff is in that car.
And 2 decades later, he would take home the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in Unforgiven.
All right, gentlemen. He's got one barrel left. I told you.
Hackman was good at playing the bad, including Superman's arch nemesis Lex Luthor in 4 films.
You were great in your day, Superman.
Sharing this on GMA from the set of Superman 4.
You have little kids come up to you on the street and say, you're the evil guy, and it's kind of fun.
Hackman would captivate a younger generation in the Royal Tenenbaums, but many will remember him as the coach who always knew how to get the best out of his players, rallying young men in Hoosiers.
If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.
And Keanu Reeves in The Replacements.
It's been a privilege. Thanks for believing.
Gene Hackman was 95 years old.
Finally, a unique art form that resulted in a remarkable piece. Here's CTV's Adam Sawatsky.
While Adele Hatch can walk to the water now, she recalls being driven there as a child, thanks to her mom Doreen being the only woman on the street with a license.
Every other woman and the kids were stuck at home unless the husbands took them.
So Doreen would regularly squeeze Adele and her sisters, plus a few of her friends, into the back of her Beetle and embark on an adventure at the beach.
I will call her a force of nature, a fabulous force of nature.
During one of those beach days, Doreen discovered a remarkable piece of driftwood, strapped it on the Beetle, and drove it to her garden, where it sat on display for more than 30 years.
It was wonderful.
After Doreen died, Adele showcased the log in her yard for 2 decades, until she happened upon the work of driftwood artist Tanya Bubb and offered it to her.
And I said, you'll do much more with it than I will ever do.
So Tanya gratefully accepted it, and like her previous work, expected to use it as a component in the construction of some sort of creature.
And I would sort of look at the thing and I'm like, no, it's not a bear. And I'd be like, okay, come back 2 months later. I don't see a Sasquatch here.
It wasn't until a year later that Tanya finally saw it as kelp waving in the water, was inspired to start bending chicken wire into a shape she could perch on top of the stump, and eventually made a massive mermaid that she named the Fabulous Doreen.
And I can't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Adele couldn't believe 2 things. First, she'd never told Tanya about Doreen's passion.
My mother loved mermaids, absolutely loved them.
And second, Adele had never shown Tanya any photos of her mom, let alone this picture of Doreen perched on a wall with her arms stretched out in a strikingly similar pose.
I couldn't believe that that was basically my mom in mermaid form.
And while it could be coincidence, and certainly serendipity, maybe, they say, it's something more magical.
I think she kind of inhabited that wood a little bit and was a little bit whispering in my ear.
But no matter the explanation, Tanya's donating proceeds of its sale to a charity in Doreen's name, and Adele is hoping whoever takes the mermaid home is inspired to be fabulous in the same way Doreen was.
Find something you enjoy and bring that joy to others as well.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Victoria.
That's our newscast for now. Thanks for watching.